you're listening to the Super Morning Show this morning. Let me be announcing to you. We have the Minister of Finance and Development Planning, Minister Augustine Ngafuan is here as our special guest. We're going to drive this interview from at this time to 11. I'm here joined by my colleagues from Prime. Kelvin Delming is here. Kelvin, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, Magdalene Sarr from Truth FM, morning.
Good morning, Reverend. It's good to be here this morning.
We will be joined by Julius Jer of OKFM, Tim Max Gelate of Sky, and Voice of Liberia, Sekou Sherif, very shortly. We want to announce to you that this interview is being relayed on a couple of radio stations across the country. In Monserrato County, we have OKFM relaying as well, Truth FM, Sky, Punch, Pooh, Voice of Liberia, Prime FM, Spoon, and Radio Bishop as well. But let me start by saying, Kelvin, you can start from your end with the.
Good morning, Vavle. Good morning, Liberia. Good morning, Liberians. It's my pleasure here on this platform. I think it's the first public media engagement with the media, with the minister. We'd like to say congratulations on your preferment as a Minister of Finance and Development Planning. And I represent Prime Communications Network Incorporated 105.5.
Great. Minister, good morning and welcome.
Thank you, Vafle. It's nice seeing you. And let me say thanks to the entire LBS family, the management, the board. And the last time I was in a studio like this, it was on the other building.
Okay.
I come to a refurbished building and I see better ambience. So kudos to all of you that have heard the thought and the reasons why we made this progress. Thank you very much.
You want to talk us through that appointment, how you were reached out by the president. I know you were in Uganda as country manager of the African Development Bank, leaving our job, coming back home. You said during your confirmation hearing that you are like a reservist, that can be called upon anytime on the battlefield. But just talk us through that process, how the president reached out to you and you accepted.
Well, my main goal was to support the government. It's not just this UP government. I consider myself a Liberian first and foremost. I've always made myself available to supporting the progress of the government. And you can support the government not necessarily in the government. You can work with and work for, not necessarily doing so in the government. So I have been supporting the progress of the country. But I was working with the African Development Bank as country manager for Uganda. And in July, the president called me and made a passionate plea that I needed to come and assist the country.
Mm.
And that I had to review my plans and my programs, because at the time we were handling some big targets for the ADB in Uganda. And I had to discuss with my family, friends, but it's usually said east or west whom is best, and that it will have come with a huge sacrifice, but nothing compares to sacrificing for country.
Mm.
And when I weigh all the options, Liberia needed me more, and I could not sit in Uganda and not come on the battlefront, as I put it.
Mm.
And the president was very passionate, and I cannot go into some of the details, but it would have been an act of unpatriotism, and I decided not to come here. to have come to join all the other players on the field. And one player, uh, so as to help to push the agenda of progress. That's why I took the decision.
Minister, in addition to the question Vavle asked, I'm concerned about the assurances. I know you placed your cards on the table when the president confronted you. That, hey, God, I think I need you on board to help support my agenda, the arrest agenda to push this country forward. I'm told that you make more. You made more than what you are making. The benefits were huge. I stand to be corrected. What assurances did you get from the president? What did you tell him? Now, I'm coming back to work as your Minister of Finance and Development Planning, but I need you to allow me to do X, Y, and Z as my assurances in order to get the jobs done.
Well, the president knows me very well. We worked before in the past government. What I stand for is clear. My values are clear. And the mere fact that he had decided to call for me was that he had committed to, and I respect the president also. I know his values. I know what he stands for. And the fact that he decided to call for me, he was asking for my whole package. I didn't have to belabor the details. And so that's why I came. It was not a matter of saying that we're going into all the gory details, but I know that the things we need to do to transform the country, and I'm very committed to that. And the president has showed that he's committed, and he's giving me the leeway to ensure that we make progress. So I've come to assist, to make sure that the progress that has started is consolidated and expedited.
I know that there are other questions on the fiscal issues of the country, the fiscal governance of the country, but since in fact it is about your person, on what were the options or why did you pick to do the job, are there future ambitions beyond the Ministry of Finance, the Minister of Finance and Development Plan?
Kevin, it's good you talk about ambition. Every day people talk about ambition. And the country gets locked in ambition of political actors. And this issue of ambition, you talk, and it is defined. What are we doing with it? There's a 2025 ambition of the people. What are we doing about that? There's a 2025 ambition of the people. Some of them are in Barclayville. Some of them are in Zozo. Some of them are in Broadway where you live. You have some ambitions. Some of them are in, Painesville, Margibi. The whole country has gotten fixated on ambition of people. And so we forget the people ambition. So what the only ambition that concerns people is electoral ambition of people. Let me say this. In deciding to take this job, it was not about personal ambition. Otherwise, I would have decided to join ever since. Ever since. I feel that my ambition should be to Liberia first and foremost. Wherever that carries me, I leave it to God. All you pray for is long life. I am lucky to have been blessed. I'm one of few persons that Liberia helped. I graduated from the University of Liberia, summa cum laude. I had no job, but I didn't apply for a job. And I usually gave kudos to former Governor A.K. Salibi at the central bank. When the central bank had been established, he needed to create what I call a center of meritocracy. And so although I was a political actor, president of the student union, very active during the Taylor days, And people remember some of the challenging moments with the former president. It did not stop me being hired at the Central Bank of Liberia. And after some time, I got a scholarship to go and earn a master's, paid for by the Central Bank. And I need to say this: we always look at some of the bad sides of leaders, but that was Taylor's time. The Central Bank was independent. That in spite of my political standing, I was hired. I earned a master's degree. Most of the things I've done is because of that. So when it comes to me in Liberia, most of the things I do is pay back time. So there will always be ambitions. I think Kevin Demi has an ambition too. But what is critical is that we government actors, we focus on the ambition of the people, and wherever that takes us, you leave that to the people and you leave that to God.
Okay. We just want to announce that we've been joined by our colleagues from Voice of Liberia, Sekou Sharif and Julius Yohoki. Sekou, you can just say one or two then. Julius as well. Before coming to Madeline side, we will ask questions.
Yeah, let me say good morning to the minister and good morning to all of the people listening to us. And I think it's very important that we've come to ask some of the questions that Liberians will want to know about.
Yeah, it is good to be here. Good to see Minister Ngafuan again. We hope to have a conversation that benefits the population.
Yeah, Madam.
Okay, so once more, I want to say good morning to my colleagues and good morning to all those listening and watching as well. And to the minister, I want to say congratulations to you. So my question is, what are the major challenges facing Liberia's fiscal situation at the moment? And a follow-up to that, and how does the government plan to address them in the short and long term?
Well, thank you very much. This is my second coming. The last time I left was this job was February 2012. At the time, the budget was hovering around 500 million US dollars. I come 12 years later, 12 years and some months later, we're talking about a little upwards of 700 million. So in 12 years, this has been the growth. In essence, we haven't grown that much. There's been some exogenous shocks in the interim period. We as a country, we were buffeted by Ebola, one of the worst scourges that our country could suffer from. We had COVID in the interim period, but we also had slippages. I don't want to belabor the details. Some of you are well aware of that. So my duty is, I didn't come so much to curse the darkness, but to light the candle. But it's hard for us to talk about now and the future without talking about some of the things we inherited. We have inherited some progress. And I need to say thanks to all my predecessors that have made the progress, that have been the reasons why we inherited some progress. But we have also inherited gargantuan challenges. And that I am not here now to go and apportion, allocate the challenges. But in the period, challenges have grown. The last time I was in this job, we had succeeded in getting debt cancellation. I led our effort. We have $5 billion in external debt canceled. And our debt service obligation was practically minuscule in the budget. I think in 2011, 2012, what we put in to deal with debt going forward was, if I'm not mistaken, not more than 5 million or 10 million. Now, the debt service obligation As more than quadrupled. I mean, I don't even want to use the number because we're talking, if we are to meet the debt service obligation of next year, you're talking about 328 million United States dollars. 328 billion United States dollars. That's a burden. So if we put that amount of money in the budget just to deal with past, just imagine the fiscal space. Look at the budget size this year of I think 738 million, and think about that. So we have to be dealing with the past. Every day people are demonstrating on Broad Street. Salary arrears, whether it's this other union or what have you. The fiscal space to deal with it, to deal with those challenges, limited. We are pushing on all fronts, working overnight, but some of the challenges will not evaporate overnight. They will take some time because, we have to solve the problem within the context of what we have. What we have versus the burden we inherited, what we have is infinitesimal versus the burden. But, as I usually say, it is scary, but I'm not scared. We are taking measures that will make us to deal with the challenges over time. But it's not going to be an overnight affair where someone will just wave or magic wand and all the problems evaporate. The Minister of Finance is one player in the equation. It's like there are other players in the equation. You have the cabinet, you have legislators, you also have the judiciary. They are all players in the process. So as I play my part, we will be looking for other players to play their parts so that all the positive play will converge to a good goal.
Yes, so can I do a follow-up quick with regards to, I want to know, you talk about debts as one of the major challenge you encountered. So external and domestic debt, I want you to be very specific when it comes to the amount. What's for external?
It's about $2.5 billion now. External should be, I think, 51% of that. And then domestic about 49%. I can run the figures, but it's about 2.5 billion in our debt stock. And the debt stock, as our debt to GDP ratio is now around 56%. There are debt indicators. Once you start to hit 60%, they start to declare you high rates of debt distress. At this point, we are moderate. It's like the yellow light is blinking. We're going to red if we hit 60, but we're ensuring that we check the brake. We are doing some stringent debt management strategy, making sure that whatever debt we contract is concessional. And debt in itself, let me just say this before it appears like I came to demonize debt. Debt in itself is not good, it's not bad. It depends on the purpose for which you are contracting debt. It's like, I'll just give you this example. You can go and take a loan from a bank. Two persons can take a loan, same amount. One person could go and invest that loan in a business and be diligent and transform that loan in a way that that small business can grow to something bigger. In that respect, that loan or that debt was good. Another person can go and take the same amount of loan. Instead of investing in business or doing something productive, decides to have Friday boost party every day. And that at the end of the day, get into problem and that they have to practically auction the house. Children cannot go to school. So in that respect, the debt was bad. So it's what you use the debt for. So we are not demonizing debt because if you look at the ratio, we're talking about debt to GDP ratio. Now, if you take debt that helps you, that has high rates of economic return, it makes the GDP to expand, the economy to expand. It means the denominator is expanding. So although you're adding up on the numerator, which is the amount you're taking, but let's assume you take $2 up on the numerator, but it helps you to expand the denominator by 4, the quotient, which is the debt to GDP ratio, actually comes down. So there are things you can do that can make the economy to expand, and then debt becomes a friendly force in that expansion equation. But debt, if not contracted well, can be used for frivolous purposes and will cause problems.
So this is not I mean a friendly force right now, especially when it comes to domestic.
Well, one of the reasons why we are in a domestic debt situation, and we're vetting the domestic debt, because sometimes it appears that domestic debt is mushrooming everywhere. Everybody, the government is owing everybody,
Including the media.
I know, and that is one of the challenges. He said one of the challenges I inherited. I know the government is owing you. I see Tim Miles giving me close eye. The government is owing everybody, and the last time we never had that situation. Let me tell you what's happening. Government, in the payment process, when government commits, it reaches a point we get an appropriation, we get an allotment and everything, and then you have when you contract, when you render a service for government, or government procure a good from you. When you go, we do what is called the LPO, local purchase order, and we do a stamp in the accounting services unit at the Ministry of Finance. It means government is committing that we owe you. Usually, a vendor should deliver service at that point. We don't have to pay in cash. Once we commit, now that had been the situation. The last time I was here, that when we just say we do the stamp, people will supply. Well, the government has lost its credibility over time, that people don't believe in government stamp. Because the government stamp has been a way where people get into domestic arrears. So now they want the cash. It makes it difficult. Some can believe in that, but others don't. So over time, every year, people have performed services for government, supply goods to government, and government, to some extent, for a good number of them have not been paying. So it has accumulated. So while we're dealing with the legacy issue, every year the domestic stock has increased. The business community has been suffocated by the big player, the government. So we have to try to restore the credibility of government, even in the banks. I had a private sector launch 2 days ago, and the bankers were around. Government owes the banking community humongously, and we're even trying to see how we even deal with the interest. Before, the banks were chasing us to give us money. Now they are afraid of us. So it is my duty, working with everyone, to restore gradually the credibility of the government.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
But we'll try to see what we can do on your front.
Yeah. Tim Max, welcome. You can just say 1 or 2. Then we'll go to Julius, who has a question.
Thank you very much. This is quite unusual about me. Time crazy. I was coming. Ngafuan put some guys on the road, working on the road. I had a terrible flat tire. I would be here before you enter, but anybody's here. I was listening to a lot of you people, including my son Kevin. But I think one thing has not been touched, and I'm going to start with that.
No, it is not a time to ask it.
It was for
we
you
have 2 hours. Now, still on the issues of the economy, and it appears to me that while you acknowledge inheritance and progress, but the picture painted looks grim. And I'm not sure you've gone to the point to really say what the government is going to do to address the economic situation tie in with the bread and butter issues. You can talk all the theories, all the numbers, and debt and everything else, but the people listening out there are concerned about their bread and butter issues. And you are the fiscal manager of the country. What can you say? What practical steps are going to be taken in terms of expanding the budget? You also decried the fact that the budget hasn't really increased over a 12-year period since you left. So what practical examples can you give us?
No, I didn't say it hasn't increased.
I said not very much.
Yes, it hasn't increased at the pace that we all would have wanted. The population has increased. Expectations have increased. The budget is the way to accommodate those expectations. Just on a minimal basis, in terms of basic needs of government, you're talking about $1 billion. We hovering around 700 million. So there's a gap. We're talking just to deal with basic demands. We're not talking about even the expensive demands of ministries, agencies, and commissions. But he asked about challenges, so I was giving some of the challenges. But as I said, it's not all bad. They are good. There are bright spots. We are on a growth trajectory. This year, we expect the economy to grow, by around 5%. And if everything keeps on this trajectory, we may go to 6% next year. The mining sector is picking up. We expect higher production. Our challenge is to be able to extract from them, in revenue for government as much as they get in for themselves, the sector. Because if you look at revenue on budget that comes to the government versus the what is happening in the sector, we are shocked. It's one of the contradictions that working with the Ministry of Mines, Energy, the legislature, we need to look at. All our regimes, our rates and what have you, are we competitive? Are there loopholes that others are capitalizing on? We have an ambitious agenda. When I went to the legislature, I said we have to robustly deal with the constraints to growth. Actions are being taken. It's just to consolidate those, especially the roads agenda and the power agenda. We must open the country. The Minister of Public Works will come and give you details, but when I look at what is in the horizon, beginning the dry season, I am heartened. You've seen some activity already in this corridor. The overpass is going to be constructed. Activity has started. When we concluded the agreement with the Chinese, I happen to have been one of the key actors for the ministerial complex. But I signed the agreement, the $60 million agreement, and President Salih was there to support that process. One of the conversations that started, in fact, Minister Woos was Public Works Minister at the time, was that how do we, this area, it will cause a traffic jam. And so the Chinese gave an initial commitment of doing overpass. Over time, Ebola came and other ministers came, and the Minister of Public Works, Judy Moore, I think by the time the past government left, that commitment was made by the Chinese. The commitment was renewed under the past government, the recent past government. I don't know what might have happened. Things got frozen.
Diplomatically.
Okay, you are more versatile individual, and you are more worse than I, So things got frozen, and that I think it was practically pressing the pause button, but the play button has been pressed. Activity has started, and you will soon see real activity. You heard about we call it the bridge to bridge. Gabriel Tucker to the St. Paul Bridge. The Japanese have committed Freeport to the bridge, to the Gibraltar, and through government commitments and others, there will be the expansion of the road to St. Paul.
When is it going to start?
This dry season, activities have already started, the mobilization and what have you. I will be, as I said, Minister Giddings will give you specifics on the road agenda, but one of the things we want to do, and it's in the context of budget. We are now, let me announce that we are in the thick of budget preparation. We are trying tooth and nail to make sure that we can meet the deadline of October 31st. It's not easy because why it means is that I have to be keeping my people at late hours every day. There are civil servants that are working double time. You know, people.
You pay them overtime. That should not be.
You know, there is always a demonization when you pay people in government sometimes, but people don't usually look at the sacrifice. You know, I can sacrifice when I see these diligent patriots working with me and keeping them from their families. 11 o'clock, they tending to the country's business and not tending to their own business. We have to look at that. But we want to be able to deliver the budget on time. But just give me a chance. There's something I want to learn on. One of the things we want to do is to, some of these big road projects have stalled or have not moved as fast as they should because government's counterpart funding towards some of these projects have not been disbursed as fast as we could or we should. So, and then some of these projects require what they call reaction or resettlement action plan. People along the side of the road, and usually it's government's responsibility to pay. So we are pushing heavily that where we are stuck, whether it is the Ganta to Tapeta to Zwedru Road, and that is Kota Road where we are stuck, we are pushing heavily to find the money so that project moves. Where we are a little stuck on the Banga Menikoma Highway, we find the money, that project moves. Through the African Development Bank, there are actions being taken for the Buchanan to Greenville, and the feasibility study is on. And I'm working with all the partners, including police at the African Development Bank and Public Works and others, to see movement. We're working with the World Bank. As you saw recently, the president was at Mount Coffee to dedicate $19 million. I think it's a 20 megawatts solar panel.
Yeah, and the expansion of the
project. Yes, you know, and that come on upstream next year by August, very fast. So I could go on, but what I see, you know, the challenges I was talking about are huge, but the commitment for progress is also huge. So going forward, it will take some time. There's going to be some turbulence sometimes, but you know, we're going to serve as the captain amidst the turbulence. When they tell you stacking the seatbelt, it doesn't mean that the plane is not moving. When we will have some bumps in the road, we'll deal with those bumps, but we will be making progress. And when I look into the future, I see progress, and that heartens me.
Okay. So, okay. I listened to you, Minister. You talked about some issues around the civil servant. I thought to ask you this: the issue about the delay in civil servant salaries and the other aspect of the harmonization. Your government said they have one of the solutions. Now you've taken over. Yes, the harmonization process continues. Salaries are still the same. People are yet to get paid within time. What is it exactly your government is doing to address all the issues?
Well, let me talk about civil servants salary delay. You know, the last time I was here, we paid, I think, around the 25th of the month, not even the 31st. And that is the commitment that I have made, and we'll reach that. You know, there are certain challenges that you don't just solve with snap of the finger. There are certain things that can turn around like a speedboat, but there are certain things that are tough. They move around like a Titanic. For a Titanic to turn around is not as fast as a speedboat. So there's a commitment, and we'll reach it. for this month, the month of September, there were some delays because there was a migration to a new payment platform. And also, there was a delay because there are some ministries and agencies that are still adding up, the health sector and what have you. They vet when then they add, and then when they are to resolve the issue between civil service and finance and the payroll, it causes some delay. What we decided, and the controller has been given marching orders on that, will not allow those kinds of incremental things to cause the entire payroll of a ministry to delay. So you rather deal with the few issues separately, and then you don't hold them. So going forward, the issue of payment on time will be handled.
So,
Now,
Minister,
coming to your
Minister,
harmonization
before you go to the harmonization, it means that the automated system that was created by the past government is being cancelled by the government in a sense where you don't use it anymore.
Don't use the word cancel. It's been upgraded. There will always be systems, and there are systems that are better than the system you know. I think that when the first thing I came here, I recognized that if this studio is better than what we had before. So there'll always be upgrades, technological upgrades. So it's not a matter of past government or present government. When we were there, we initiated IFMIS. IFMIS. It started under my administration, Minister of Finance. Yes. So in a sense, I'm a past individual too. I'm a pass. So that system has been used, has been upgraded since I left. So the fact that past governments of my successors upgraded this IFMIS system, I give them kudos.
So are you also saying it was not because of financial issues that people didn't take?
No, it was not financial issue. I told you the two issues. Two issues. One, system migration. Two, the challenges, in resolving all the vetting issue about new persons being added by critical ministries. But that is going to be solved. Now,
What measures?
What different? What is it in terms of the automated system being different from what exactly you've launched in terms of what you say upgrading?
I'm not a techie. And so I cannot get into all the technical stuff. I'm a financial guy. What I know is that even though there's a World Bank system and, all approved by partners, they come and say we need to upgrade their capabilities that are better. That's all we need to know. So the system that they piloted is an upgrade to the old system. It's not an issue of saying, the past system. So when you start a new system, there could be some system glitches. So you recognize that, and they are correcting them, and they're getting used. They have learned lessons from the migration process. But it's not every month they're going to migrate. This was a peculiar issue, but there was also a problem, as to how you deal with the incremental issues. We are solving that. But I don't want to belabor that. You were talking about
the harmonization.
And your concern was that why we having what?
Up to present salaries, salaries are still the same.
Okay. I just hope that we only had a harmonization problem. If we only had a harmonization problem, it is solved today.
Why?
Because, don't beg me to go to belabor the past. Don't beg me to do.
No, you don't. You need to
explain. Let me tell you this. Let me say this. And put it on simple. I will make this example. A parent or family can feed, or parent can feed his or her family 3 times a day. Children are being fed 3 times a day. In the night, because they have food in the storeroom in the house. Rice, soup kind, oil and everything. In the night, someone comes and take some away. Take some of the food items that the parent needs to feed his or her family 3 times a day. Then in the day, the person goes and starts to say that, I dare you, you cannot feed your child 3 times a day. I dare you, you cannot feed your child 3 times a day. But why can I? Why? I'm not able to feed my child 3 times a day. If you cut somebody's arm and blame them for being crippled, it's very unfair. Next year, this government will have to budget $15 million to pay back to the central bank the $83 million that the past government in December took from the reserves. It's a big issue because that was a violation of the central bank's act. We must work with, please give me a chance. Please give me a chance. We must pay $15 million. $15 million to address harmonization, we will address it significantly. $18 million, ECOWAS trade levy. The government collects ECOWAS trade levy every time. Over the period, we rack up a debt of $18 million. ECOWAS is beyond us. This government is addressing that. I could go on.
Minister, are we going to graduate from this harmonization or we
let me learn. I will tell you what we're going to do. But let me learn. I said, Sekou, you brought this past issue.
How did I do it? No, I want you to clear that first because you have people listening.
How did I do it? Say you don't ask a question.
He needs to make it clear. You know? How did I do it at Sekou?
Minister saying you want to curse the darkness.
Let me say this. So we have to be budgeting for that. There was in the tail end, the last few months of the past, there was a bump in the size of the civil service. Employment. Most places got yeasted in terms of the number of people. We have to deal with that. If almost every minister is dealing with challenges. The tail end, last 3 months.
Was that intentional?
Well, I don't want to get into intention on that, but I just want to give some of the facts. Now, so we are encumbered. We are encumbered with a multiplicity of problems. So we are not just going to be addressing harmonization.
Minister, you are yet to tell us
I'm coming.
whether this, because
I will have to get that background.
We have lots of issues to talk about.
Because harmonization, let's harmonize.
So why is it, Minister? Why is it up to present? Just a minute,
the issue of harmonization.
Minister, why is it up to present? Civil servant has been able to go out and say they want to claim payroll, do other things. Hello, Minister, just a minute. And we still have the increase in the wage bill of the government. Yesterday, people have been removed from payrolls and all of that in the government.
Let me come to your question. Look, as I said earlier, if it was just an issue of harmonization, then would have created harmony. Because to some extent, the harmonization did not meet its own ambitions of creating harmony. There were people that were, like, I will give an example. Julius J, Sekou Sharif, they are in the same category. And it said that they should be making, assuming they're making $3,000. And it is said that the money they are making is high, and we need to harmonize. And harmonizing meaning bringing them down to 2,000. There are situations, pervasive, where from 3,000 they bring Sekou Sharif to 2,000, but for Julius J, they put it below sea level. They carry down to maybe 1,005. So in that, even in harmonization, there was victimization. So we have a situation of victimization and harmonization. So we have to deal with. There are all kinds of issues. There are people too who, by their qualification and their competences, they shouldn't be making more than 2,000. But even after harmonization, or even in the implementation of harmonization, they went to maybe 2.5 and whatever. Many. So I didn't come to surgically deal with harmonization.
Will you be able to address the issue about harmonization where your government will continue or your government will decide to let go of harmonization?
Let me tell you this. What is important? I have been a stickler for paying people well. Whether you call it dealing with harmonization or dealing with disharmonization, you can find a way to deal with, call it whatever. One of the things we're working on, and that's why we're working tooth and nail. Yesterday, I spent almost 4 hours at the LRA with the Commissioner General and his team. We are brainstorming in government with the grand design of having a positive impact on disposable income. I repeat, we are working. The grand design is to have a positive impact on disposable income.
That sounds great. Let me just bring your attention.
And then we are in the budget process. The budget process will unveil details.
Yeah, sure, sir. But it really appears to me that you are doing your best to dodge the issue of what this government promised in opposition about harmonization. You came to power, you went to the IMF, signed an agreement where it is stated slightly reduced. This is F under count 14, some of the commitments that you made to the IMF, slightly reduced the nominal wage bill compared to the 2023 outturn. However, this will generate a substantial saving in terms of GDP from 7.1% in 2023 to 6.3% in 2024. Moreover, the Civil Service Agency issued a circular to suspend the salary payments of 6,387 government employees that have remained unverified since the 2022 GAC audit. The suspension will continue and the employment status is verified with biometric identification and blah, blah, blah. We all know that this IMF process goes for 40 months and it is very much demanding upon government in terms of setting fiscal targets that must be met. If you are promising or have promised to reduce wage bill, how possible can it be that you will reverse harmonization? Will civil servants' salaries increase before the 40 months of the IMF process end or not? You have to address that, sir.
Julius, what I said is that we are working, and the grand goal is to have a positive impact on disposable income, meaning what people have in their pocket should not reduce but should increase. And so all the strategies we're going to apply, it's good that you're a journalist. Okay, but you want to be an economic journalist, then you will transition, you will join me in some of those long hours. We are committed, and the civil service is doing some of the background heavy lifting. Now, let me say this. In fact, one group that is very critical to it, do you know that there's a good number, I think more than 1,000 persons, even with harmonization, are being paid less than the minimum wage bill amount of $150. Some as low as $53 up to now. I don't know how it happened because the last time I left, I think the minimum pay in government was $110. Now people are in. I thought it was a lie until someone verified, and that I asked my technician where. I know you from River G, right? From
Maryland.
Maryland. Okay, you're almost there. He said the person is from River G. You know, the person is because I didn't think it was possible. $53 gross. And then when they tax the person, you know where the person is going. You're already in the hole. You went back. You went deeper. So in the harmonization, there are urgencies. So when you talk about, I'm saying I don't want to say. We are taking action and we take action.
Okay. So the issue about civil
servants,
your government, minister, your government, the CSA, let me just conclude this. Yeah, I'll give it.
There's going to be
the CSA came up with a process, right?
Minister,
it's very important
actions
about the very civil servant.
And the end goal is working with all the stakeholders of government. The end goal is to have a positive effect. We are doing everything and we are working. As I said, the budget process unveils some of those things. It's not my
So there is no timeline yet, and the government is still evasive to civil servants as to whether they will harmonize. No. This is an important issue. This is important for the civil servants that are listening.
It is equally important for
timeline.
The issue between you and Sekou.
Mr. Minister,
just give us a timeline.
There is no timeline for the civil servants. That is why you are saying you as a minister of finance cannot tell the civil servants when you will de-harmonize or whatsoever right now, right?
The last time I checked, you were a good listener.
I am.
I told you that we are taking actions with the grand goal of having a positive impact on disposable income. This could be big for others, but not big for you. And I said, in the context of this budget that we're trying to submit by the 31st, you're going to see action that will be unveiled. You talking timeline again, Julius?
Okay, so just a minute, Vapor, please. The issue about the CSA, process we've carried out, taking number of names from the payroll so as to have what they call the rightful people, and the rightful people are to be paid. And up to present, yes, the wage bill of the government stay the same, or maybe it has increased. Then what exactly the outcome of the CSA process across the country?
Well, the CSA is on a process. They identify more than 6,000 persons. You just read it, that were deemed not to be coming to work, and they put in the account for them. They gave a 60-day window for those people. If they are not ghosts, then they will appear. And the 60-day window is around, and some of those people that are real human beings have been appearing, and the ghosts are still in the grave. So after time, I think the CSA director will come and tell you, who resurrected and who is still in the grave, and then we'll know the actual number.
I think Timax, and then I want.
So that we have more than 30 minutes to do my stuff. I've allowed everybody to be one, so I hope you don't interrupt me. So because
I will share the 30 minutes.
Yes, I want to do this and Sekou.
But I have to ask question.
Because I want to do this chronologically.
And I hope I'm here too.
You and I will share the 30 minutes.
So, historically, when your former boss came to power, that was in 2005, the team was mobilized. Borrowing from Charles Taylor, it used to be $15. Sometimes people used to get it 3 times a year. By some sort of intervention or some sort of blessing, it gravitated to $40, then to $80. Up to the time the people left office, it was at $150. And prices of things were manageable then as compared to what they are now. Our expectation that Ngafuan coming back to the game, coming back on the team, informs us that things will be better. Things will be affordable. The papa, the mama will go home to the children, say that have come home, have taken pay. What plans are you working? Because if you look at what today brings, what today pictures to us, are things that are astronomically high and becoming unbearable. People are telling us, those of us that are so hopeful in the recruitment of the team, to be realistic in managing our expectation. How long can we wait that things will come back to what they were when you left? And what are the ingredients that will be put into that to make people comfortable, to make people respectful? Because when you're working and your take home cannot take you home, your take home pay cannot take you home, and your children don't get the stuff they used to get, it's embarrassing. What plans are you putting together? What plans on the way, and how soon will that plan be implemented that Liberians and Liberian civil servants will be respected as they used to be? That's my first question.
Well, Timas, thank you very much. We have to grow the economy. Yes, I talk about GDP growth, but we have to also ensure that GDP growth translates in tandem with revenue growth. We have GDP growth and the revenue starts to grow like a tortoise in the process. I told you about the mining sector. It's one of the main drivers of growth now and next year. We have to make sure that we what is gotten by government commensurate with the growth of activity in that sector. There are other sectors that we are doing deep dive. We are working with the LRA in their plan to digitize many of their operations with the goal to close leakages. There was serious abuse in the granting of incentives. You know, we call them tax expenditures, where people would just write and say, okay, this person is exempted, or you say the person should not pay duty because, you know, in a way that may not be too above board. You say because government owes the person. Good amount of government revenue did not come in. We're correcting that. The grand goal is to increase the size of the cake. All this thing about government, just think about it, the budget is the cake. The bigger the size, the more we have to divide. If the cake is not big, and the number of persons behind the cake to get a piece of the pie, it's going to be a scramble, or they will get smaller or smaller chunks of the cake. So we are taking actions to expand the cake. When I'm talking about electricity, this weekend I'm on my way to the World Bank IMF annual meeting, and that we're going to be having some big meetings. One of them will be what we call a Liberia Energy Deep Dive. The president, when he was in New York, he participated on a panel with ADB President Adesina and the World Bank President. Liberia is one of 14 countries that have been in Africa that has been selected, for what we call Energy Compact. I think it's something called Mission 300. So there will be support coming to the country to solve our energy problem over time. The energy situation we have to decrease the costs. You know, it's high, it's prohibitive, it's eating into profits. I was talking to some small businesses, people that run, Liberians that run even B&B. One of the things they say is that the cost of power is the main drag to their profitability. We have to address that. And we're addressing that. We address it, more businesses will get profitable, they can expand. And government is not necessary. We spend most of our time here talking about civil service, civil servants. The civil servant payroll is about, I think, if I'm not mistaken, about 70,000 or so.
70,000?
If I'm not mistaken, I could be mistaken.
70,000.
70% or 70,000?
I think around, if I got to confirm the number, maybe around, because at one point I think it was 60, it was 50, when it started going up. I have to confirm the number, but I think it's hovering between maybe 60 to 70,000. So you know how many Liberians have we have in this country? More than 5 million. And all of them cannot be paid by government. So how about those people too? The government must focus on their lives. So how do we address them? How do we get jobs? So you see me talking about we're going to take big action. The road agenda is going to be huge. We connect the country. It's going to impact on agriculture. We have areas in this country where during the rainy season, our people produce much. But because of road condition, they cannot bring their goods from farm to market. When we address all of those issues, we're expanding the economy. So over time, things are going to fall in place.
Will they get?
So it's going to get better.
Will they get work? Yes, I'm following. Okay. Because it's sort of a system that we're looking at, something that could happen, that might happen in the future. I'm asking you now, why would you tell Liberians, especially the civil servants, the ordinary Liberian industry who's not on payroll, are you telling us that it's going to get tough before it gets better?
It's already tough.
Will it get tougher?
It's already tough. We are dealing with the toughness with the goal to not making it tougher, to making it better. That is the goal. We're working tooth and nail on that, and that sometimes the solution may be a time-intensive process. And people want solutions with the snap of the finger. In that regard, we say this problem is huge. As I said, it's not like a speedboat solution. Some of the problems will require quick actions, and those quick actions are being taken. But some of the problems, to solve them, it will take some time. And we explain to people some of those challenges.
Is there
just
any
1 minute.
pressure from from external from international financial financial institutions, whether they are putting pressure on you with regards to the debt, or they are just...
Government owes all of them.
Oh.
Government owes all of them. All of them. And they too are putting pressure for us to pay their debt. Whether it's the World Bank, the African Development Bank, EBIT, the ECOWAS Bank for International Development, for the RI road, for this and that. So yes, we are being encumbered by all of them.
How do you? Excuse, I told you I will have enough time. How do you? Yeah, I'm coming. How do you deal with that? She was asking a question whether you've been pressured by partners, international partners. You've been through this circle before, when you were the president, Helen Johnson ran around the clock, and you have this blessing of canceling your debt. Is it not possible that we go through the same system? That guys that we go outside will be able to sort of give us this blessing that go and see no more than start afresh.
Well, our strategy more is to expand. Look, it may sound big, right? Mm-hmm. But if we expand our economy, to pay our debt will not be a big issue. So we need to expand the denominator. When we expand the denominator, we're going to get credible. And the expansion is going to take place. So we are working with our partners. I talk about the ADB and the World Bank on the energy compact for Liberia. When we do that and we increase energy access, our economy is going to expand. There are going to be more small businesses. They're going to get profitable, and they're going to have branches around. They will employ. Julius can get his own media empire. And he will employ. Sekou could be a media magnet. He may move from just voice of
he already is.
Yeah, he's already starting branches in the county. Those are the things. But those things happen over time.
Okay, Minister, just 1 minute. Let speak louder. So, Minister, I want to go back to the budget growth because it seems the more the budget grows, the more fat pay people get. You alluded to the fact that there are many players in the sector, in the economy. and actors whose roles like yours are very important as well to growing the budget. But have you identified some of the barriers that hold in budget growth, the slow pace?
Well, I said I put them one. I put it one on some exogenous shocks that we face as a country. You know, many countries only face Corona, but we faced Ebola, and then we went to Corona. You know, it caused some issues. There was difficulty, and that over time, as I said, I don't want to spend all the time cursing the darkness, but there were some dark spots. There was some sluggishness over time, but we need to learn lessons from them, from those periods, and see how we can do better. The challenges are huge. All we can ask for is for everyone in this process. It's like a teamwork. There are people that are on the team that must play their part well for us to score the goal. So the core is that we will try to do our part well, with the hope that others will do their parts well, and the collective goal will meet the target that the country expects.
We heard that 6 million grant was given in Brussels as a grant from the IMF, the 20 million from the ECF program, and also 40 million from the World Bank. What are you doing with all these huge sum of money?
Thank you very much, Baffle. Well, let me clarify this. You know, when I took over, one of the first things I had to do, working with the team, was to ensure that we met target for the IMF to approve us for this extended credit facility, the ECF, and that we succeeded. It was a big discussion, and at one point I was on the line for almost 3 hours with folks at the IMF to make sure that the country was not denied. We are happy that we were approved. So you're talking about 210 million, but that does not come to us on budget. Let me clarify. It is good you ask this.
It's off budget support.
No, it goes to the central bank to show up the central bank reserve. I told you before about the $83 million that was taken from the central bank reserve. You know,
By the previous administration, let's be clear.
by government, and that we have to take some actions. You have let me explain this, and this could be a little bit high end. We have the same way you have malaria, and there are temperature levels that when your temperature goes beyond those levels, we call it high malaria, and then when you start reaching Ebola level, you know your temperature is, I'm forgetting the Ebola temperature, but then it's higher. In the economy, there are indicators of health. One of the indicators is what they call your inputs versus your reserve. A government should have enough reserve to be able to finance not less than 3 months of its inputs. We were there before, but we've dropped to 2 months. So there's just shortage. So we need to beef up our reserve. Otherwise, we have a macroeconomic imbalance, meaning we're not healthy. And so that starts to blink that you get high malaria for the sake of the knowledge that you're reaching Ebola level. So we are putting money, the money that we're going to get from the IMF over a 40-month period. Over a 40-month period, they're going to put that amount of money to show up, to increase our reserve. We as a government, I told Sekou that by next year, we're going to put on 50 million to the central bank to increase the central bank's reserve. So it's not on budget that the Minister of Finance has to spend. No, it goes to the reserve. Now, the other one, the 60 million, is budget support that comes next year from the EU. We've been working the team at the Ministry of Finance, and let me thank the National Authorizing Office and the wonderful team at the Ministry of Finance working with other government stakeholders to make this happen. And at the end of the day, I mean, it's been a government-wide effort. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs played its role. The Minister of Foreign Affairs was in Brussels to conclude an agreement. That comes next year.
I thought it was 108 million euros.
Huh?
I thought it was
No,
108
for
million.
budget support.
Okay.
For budget support next year, it's about 60 million.
Okay.
Now, you talk about the 40 million from the World Bank. Yes, we've managed to have gotten this commitment, but it comes with prior actions. If we slip on prior actions, the funds will not come this year.
What are the actions?
Are they
There are
conditional?
multiplicity of
Yeah,
actions,
yeah.
including passing, we discussing a zoning law, what we call the disaster management policy. And besides the 40 million, we've managed to engage with the World Bank. They're going to add an additional 20 million US dollars. That is going to help us to address disaster. There's going to be a fund that doesn't come on budget. It's going to be with the World Bank. Once we go through our process, a transparent process, and declare an emergency, we can access some of those funds. Recently, there was an emergency in Riverside. If you check the government's budget, there was practically nothing there for disaster reaction. So how do we deal with some of those things? So our engagement with the World Bank has managed to secure this amount of money. But I was on a 2-hour long video conference at the World Bank's office in Monrovia 2 days ago. And we want to make sure that it comes sooner than later. I have a meeting with the World Bank's president. We don't want delay because we want the 40 million in budget support to come in November or not later than early December. And then we have this 20 million support. So one of the main reasons I'm going to the IMF World Bank meeting is to have those meetings so as to consolidate the commitment. So that will help us to deal with some of our challenges.
But are these monies reflected in the 2025 budget?
No, the World Bank, the World Bank is going to also give us another budget support next year of 40 million. They're giving 40 million this year. What we're trying to do is that the money for this year does not delay. Because, I will explain this. You may hear that revenue on target, why are people finding difficulty in getting their allotment? People may not understand that there could be seasonality in revenue collection, mismatches. So over a 12-month period, you can raise your revenue, but there could be dry patches for some months. But then the expenditure demand is high. How do you deal with that? Usually, if the government is credible, but we because of our past history, we are improving on that now. You can take short-term facilities, even from commercial banks and what have you, to tide over the difficulty when your money comes. So we expect this in November or early December. If we delay on some of the prior actions, the money will come, but late, and delay is going to be deadly. So I spent the whole of last week, went to cabinet, put it on the cabinet's agenda, and line ministries and agencies responsible, we're working with them to deliver on those prior actions, and that even from here, I'm going to meet a critical minister on some of those to ensure that we meet the target, because when I'm discussing with the vice president of the World Bank next week, I want to be able to say that we met those actions so Liberia can qualify for 40 million and 20 million extra for disaster.
So can I?
I'm concerned about domestic debt payments. Can you provide an update on the status of domestic debt payments, including the challenges that may have arisen and the steps being taken to address them? And then the allotment issues is another concern. How is the ministry addressing the complaints? The Ministry of Finance and Development Planning addressing the complaints from various ministries, agencies, and commissions regarding delayed or absent approved allotments. What measures are there, if there are any?
Well, Kevin, it's a technical question. And I think I started when I was addressing Vafle's question. There is a general notion that revenue is on target. Why can there be a delay in servicing allotments? Now, the revenue, some of the revenue flows do not hit the consolidated on time. Commercial banks collect government revenues too. One of the challenges that we're trying to grapple with is how fast they sweep the funds and remit the funds in the consolidated. So the revenue chief can say, we raise this money, but the controller general, the man who is closest to our cash, he doesn't have it there. He cannot issue a check to Vafle, to LBS, knowing he has to confirm that the money is in the account. Otherwise, the worst thing you want is for a check to bounce. So he's tracking what is in his account. But then there's been some problems. Sometimes it goes as long, even more than a month. So it's one challenge we're trying to solve.
It is a communication issue.
It's not just a communication issue, it's a system issue. We can get into the details, but you're talking about just because of that. 16
I think he's still on.
16 million. And you hear about vendor shares. The revenue, some categories of revenue are collected through the efforts of people. They are the ones that raise the revenue, the government must pay them. So their share, it could be 1%, 2%. Now, when it's announced that the revenue is on target, is the gross. The net amount is the one that gets into the consolidated. What has been happening is been a problem over time. That amount is cut from source, but we have not been properly budgeting for it. So those are some of the things we're correcting in the budget process. The central bank, the government pays interest on central bank loans. To some extent, if the budget is inadequate in terms of budgeting for central bank's payment, the central bank does not wait for you. It will cut your money because they have it. So you have the controller general having smaller kitty as compared to what the public knows. So now, what happens with the deluge, the avalanche from ministries and agencies? So some of the reasons why you have delays is because of that. We are trying to improve our cash management processes to manage this kind of problem transparently. Because there could be delay, there could be challenges, but how do you manage it? We have to be fair and we have to be transparent with it.
So that is one allotment issue, and then secondly, I asked about domestic debt.
Domestic debt. We have a huge issue with domestic debt.
I think it's 1.1 billion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Debt stocks 2.6 billion.
Okay.
And external 1.5 billion.
This year, we had just about 53 million or more or less budgeted for domestic debt. Debt stock of how much?
Debt stock of let me see the data. Debt stock
of 2.6
of
and
2.6.
That's the total. Domestic debt is 1 point something billion.
Yeah, 1.1.
53 million against 1.1. So when you take out what we need to pay the banks, because the banks are so critical, we cannot even pay their principals, just interest, just for this year. How much were we left with for all the other people that government owes, including in salary arrears and whatnot?
Well, how did we get to this place?
Let me just land. Just a little more than 2 million. When somebody is coming to you, just him alone or his entity alone His domestic debt is about 4 million. When you take the commercial banks and the central bank out, you're left with 2 million to deal with all that challenge. So putting the problem in stark perspective. We're trying to increase the domestic debt allocation for next budget. But no matter what we do, see how much we owe versus how much we have.
And then you, as the government, will also be taking more debt too.
Minister, how do you juggle that with restoring confidence, from the banks and all these people that you owe as well?
The thing is that we're going to be addressing them. We're budgeting more and more for payment of debt. The government budgeted for debt servicing in the first iteration of the budget. They had 69 million, but that was reduced to 20 million. The recast, we tried to put something in, the legislature approved that. So we're going to increase the amount budgeted for domestic debt and even external debt in the new budget. But no matter what we do,
Mr. Minister.
no matter what we do,
Mr. Minister,
I think it's still on the phone. Welcome to Timas. I just want to learn.
He's crying without this.
I just want to learn this stuff.
Get provision because of
Timas, I just want to learn.
You've learned it already.
Minister, you learned it yourself?
Yeah, you learned it.
I don't think so.
How did we get here?
No, I think he needs to learn this stuff.
No, he learned it.
I don't speak for him.
No, I'm not speaking for him.
Mr. Minister, you gave us a lengthy of this. How did the domestic debt? How did we get here? Is it a result of financial indiscipline or recklessness? How did we get here?
well, I said that one of the reasons over time, contractors who perform services to government, vendors, over time, government stopped paying them, not necessarily all of them. Some payment, some obligations were not met. It was a year-on-year process. It's been accumulating. So as a result, government has been suffocating small businesses. You talk about, right here, you're talking about payment to the media. The media, you perform service, and government hasn't paid. The thing is that as we talk about the past, I'm following up with my people so that as soon as we leave from here, you are paid for this service. So we cannot be talking about the past and not solve the present problem. So we'll be dealing with, one of the things I'm committing to, as we deal with the legacy problems, we do not compound the legacy problems by adding new problems. So we're trying to draw a line,
It takes very long to pay.
drawing a line that at least that's a legacy problem we're going to be dealing with. But going forward,
you want to be current.
Going forward, we want to be current.
No,
we want to be credible.
Let me just take him to two critical points on things that he said. You mentioned vendors and different people who also collect taxes or whatsoever on behalf of government and the revenue sharing or whatsoever. I have noticed a lot of these contracts seem to be cheating the government. Like NetTech, for example, government gets 20%. The controversial NetTech, government gets 20% and they get 80%. A whole lot of those contracts are structured just like that. Are you going to seek to review or look at those kinds of things? Why is it? Now, that is one. Two, you also mentioned the ECOWAS trade levy earlier. The previous government owed 80 million. For whatever reason they did with that money, we do not know. But we've also come to notice that your government is getting into the habit of taking some of the same ECOWAS trade levy for the similar purposes the previous government did. So, in the off-budget expenditure report, your government first took $2.8 million plus to give $350,000 for hosting of annual African group meeting, $1.6 million for salary payment for special sitting of legislature, $810,000 for Senate, $70,000 to MICAT, Ministry of Information for Media Intelligence. Then the government came again and took $1.7 million from the ECOWAS trade levy to finance salary deficit, $296,000 to LCAA, $510,000 to Ministry of State to finance salary gap created due to new appointment 491,000 to LMDC to finance salary deficit, 432,000 to finance salary deficit of the Governance Commission. You were not there at the time. But you, as finance minister, how are you going to ensure that you already owing the ECOWAS money that you promised to pay, but then the one that is being collected right now, your government is also taking some? How are you going to show that that stops?
I think, thank you for bringing that question, because you're straight into this issue of quote-unquote off budget, which I need to explain. The law provides for a percentage of the budget to go to contingency expenditure. We are doing budgeting. I told you we are trying to prepare the budget for 2025, and we want to conclude this process by the end of the month, hopefully, for a period that starts January 1 to December. So to some extent, all of us in the budgeting process becomes prophets. We prophesy what will happen next year. We do all kinds of models and what have you. But no matter what we do, we cannot provide for all the contingencies and what have you. Some of the quote-unquote off-budget expenditure went to deal with the paying government obligation for, government reaching out when people die, having their funerals. We were just joking with somebody, but they didn't budget for that death. So the PFM law provides for a percentage of the budget for contingency, so that when those contingencies arise, you have funds to service those kinds of situations. But the contingency amount is, whenever it's put in the budget, is one of the amounts that gets reduced. Even at the level of the executive, it's difficult for the executive. Now it's 2%. But it's difficult even for the executive, because people will not understand, why are you reserving money when you need to give it to the ministry and all that stuff. So the Ministry of Finance usually has limited wiggle room to deal with contingencies going forward. Then those contingencies arise. Like jokingly, the last time the Minister of Youth and Sports wrote me a letter, and he decided that the Deputy Minister, Andy Kwame, should accompany the letter. What was the letter? We were talking about Lone Star, no money to fund the Lone Star's travel to Equatorial Guinea in the second round. Unfortunately, I'm told that we lost the game. Then I read the letter. I said, "What? Let me check here. Is it in his budget?" It was not in his budget. There's no money in the quote-unquote budget for that. Now, I could say, Mr. Minister, no money in the budget to deal with that. Musa doesn't play. But do you know that that's off budget? We have to find sources that are not urgent enough to deal with that. So I just told Ende Kwame, there's no off budget debate. Please go. You be one of those to go and testify that you're one of those that are causing the off budget. Yeah.
So you go and take money from ECOWAS straight level.
Listen. There are budgetary pressures you can take today, and tomorrow you pay. You deal with urgencies. Now, the government over time has paid some money to ECOWAS. It's not like in the past there was zero. We pay, and we are going to continue to pay. To a large extent, government is put in that situation. Because if you have a state crisis. If you have a state crisis, thank God that we haven't had a significant issue of imports. If you guys declare and you, Julius, and you start to talk about how threatening it is and all that, what is government doing? And you start saying, government. When you yell like that, then Vapler joins you and Kevin joins you, Sekou on the voice of Liberia. What are you telling us? Then they come to me, they write a letter as Minister of Finance. What are you doing with this? Then we start to look in the budget what is not urgent. We want to find an entity.
What is not pressing?
What is not pressing? So some of it is timing. But it has to be done with discipline. Okay. It has to be done with discipline. So we're going to meet the ECOWAS thing. We're discussing with ECOWAS. At least ECOWAS is happy that we have started paying against our arrears. The full obligation is huge because it's not only current, but the current obligation we're dealing with past obligation, but we started paying.
Minister, yeah, I'll come to you. Tonight. Your predecessor, Samuel Toy, is sanctioned by the U.S. government. He parades by saying that he was sanctioned because of some issue with HPX, ArcelorMittal. What do you know about HPX, ArcelorMittal, all this deal about railway or thing?
Well, I don't follow. I didn't follow that particular stuff.
But you know he's sanctioned, right?
Yeah, that is common knowledge. That is common knowledge. That is common knowledge. I know that HPX wants to be a big player in the mining space here. There's conversation ongoing in government, intra-government. Mr. We're talking about there's conversation on the use of the rail. Meetings are being had, and that I think sooner than later there will be a meeting of the minds to ensure that Liberia's best interest is served. I know about that, and that we are taking a position as a government. There are discussions at the level of the Inter-Ministerial Concessions Committee, chaired by the NIC, and we are bringing our perspectives to bear.
Well, yeah, he thinks positively about you, that you are up to it.
I think we should give.
No.
Let me leave the issue of the financing aspect. I want to get into infrastructure. Because your boss always says that if we don't build roads, we don't get connected, the economy will not be expanded. Where are we in your administration in terms of infrastructure development? Whether we talk about roads, Monicoma, Odian, all the roads, where are we?
Well, I said that the Minister of Public Works will come here and unveil the road agenda for the dry season. It's going to be huge, it's going to be significant. I was dabbling into some. I was talking about the bridge to bridge, Freeport to Steamport. Significant activity is going to happen there. You see that there's been some demolition on the path. They're going to do the overpass, and so the overpass we reach as far as
the John overpass.
Well, I explained the history about that overpass. That conversation started even when I was in government before. You know, Minister Woods was at Public Works. When we were talking the ministerial complex, we were talking overpass.
So it was not designed
because
by Georgia.
The issue was
no. I want to get clear. Wasn't it that designed by Georgia?
I don't want to get into the weeds. Let me just give the facts. The facts are that that conversation started then, and it was practically the Chinese locked in their commitment by the time Minister Judy Mo, came in, and the Chinese renewed that commitment under the past government. Julius have a way of explaining what happened, and then things got frozen. But what got frozen has been unfrozen, and activity is happening.
Okay, please.
No,
it's very easy. It's in line with it.
It's simple recipe.
It's in line with it. I just want to female.
Yes. Yeah, I hope I'm saying.
Sometimes let's have a conversation where you don't want to say, it's already in line with it. So I just thought to ask.
Yeah, but just hold it.
Simple recipe, it's small. So, on a serious note, when I heard that you were, once again appointed as the finance minister, I said, but this is not a strange place to you. You served before in other big positions internationally. So we expect. I told the people on State of the Nation, where my boss Christopher said, I think you're familiar with him. I said, please tell the honorable minister I'm going to build the expectations of the people. I'm going to tell them that he's going to overly perform because this is not his first time, and we know what he can do. So when it also comes to the issue of information, I see sometimes when questions are posed, you want to you're playing a nice game, but there are so many institutions right now relay this broadcast. and we know there are going to be more media engagements. We want you to actually explain. We want you to tell us if it is the past, because we can't be, pushing or talking about the present without making reference to the past. We want, you to be very open, because the people expectations are hard, and we are building it because of the messages that we received during campaign. Okay, to my question, I want us to look at the issue of agriculture. If the government agenda, the A is for agriculture, why is the government actually intentional about agriculture? Because there was a reduction in a let's say recast budget. Yeah, you can better explain that. So for me, we have the agriculture program at Truth FM, and we've been doing that for over 2 years. We listen to the cries of the people, and it's so disheartening. So what are the prospects of those who are making farms, agriculturists, farmers across? Are you guys making it sexy or making it more, comfortable for even young people to endeavor?
Margaret?
Madeline.
Magdalene. Oh, okay, right. Okay. Let me see this. And I will give this little literacy.
Okay.
And to some extent, it is unfair to just look at the government's budget alone to look at government, to assess government's priority for sectors. There are certain sectors that we call them donor darlings. The donors, we have projects and interventions that are directed in certain sectors. Agriculture has been one of the sectors that have attracted a lot of donor support. And some of the support, that goes to those sectors, they are credit, meaning government will pay back eventually. So although they may not be in the quote-unquote budget, but most of those donor-related activity is government. So if for LBS, I just use LBS as an example. If the government talks with the Chinese, as we're doing, and the MD of the LBS and his team, assisted by Vafle and others, push other partners. They are doing for LBS, they're constructing for LBS, they're expanding facilities for LBS. It is not in LBS budget. If you come and see, if you assessing our prioritization for LBS based on just our budget, then you're looking in a limited way. Look at the panoply, the entire thing, the cake. And the cake includes what we attract. What we attract. I told you before that the amount of money we have in the budget for disaster is practically nothing. And I told you that we've engaged the World Bank. We've committed, we're trying to secure $20 million that will be used for disaster. That will not be on the budget per se, because it's going to be with the World Bank. We have a process of access. So agriculture remains the first priority. You mean in the chain, but it does not mean
you are now chasing 50 million euro from the ERB, the European Investment Bank, for agriculture, rice production.
Yeah. So all of those things, when they happen in projects and what have you. Some of those projects, they get what we call on-budget support and off-budget support. So let's look at the big picture. On budget, off budget, partner support, and what have you, to be able to.
Quickly, SOEs. You, as the finance minister, you're a member of most of those boards of the SOEs. There are two major complaints coming from the SOEs. Lots of them, there are people working there are taking huge benefits, paid a whole lot of money. That's a concern. Also, the issue of the amounts of money they're supposed to give to the government to put into the consolidated account. A GSE audit of the LTA has shown that last year, most of that money wasn't put into the government's account. Bring it to attention to see what you do with it. Adding to that is your salary then as finance minister when you were And as finance minister now, how is it? Has it decreased or increased? Is it the same?
Well, as finance minister,
Then and now.
my salary was 3,000. Taxable 2004. That was the finance minister's salary. When I was foreign minister for a good while, my salary was 3,000 for almost 3 years. No insurance, no medical, practically no vacation.
Which one are you on now?
No, I'm coming to it. Because there's sometimes public officials, there's a thought that public officials are just leashing on the public coffers. I know when I told you that as foreign minister, my salary, dean of the cabinet, 2,400 taxable, net. I saw you, you were like, you were shocked. That was the salary of the dean of the cabinet until 2015, February, that the government decided to at least pay cabinet people and political appointees honorably in comparison with the region.
Well, God, let's
No, I'm coming there. Let me get the history. Let me get
What
the
is
history.
it now?
No,
I'll
let me get the history.
Let me get the history. And I think the salary of cabinet went to 7,008 at the time, and then taxable, I don't know where it was in net. It's been some time now. 7,008. Now the salary, if I'm not mistaken, is 5,008 for ministers. So what has been happening?
Did that come from the previous government?
Yes.
That increase come from the previous government.
No, I told you.
2015.
I've given you a history.
I'm talking about.
The
question like Jeff asked. Wait a minute. Let me lay on this one because we want to have some clarity.
Yeah, but we have to go to the land.
We'll go to the line.
Yeah,
we have the whole day.
we don't have the whole day.
What I'm saying to you guys is that talking about 2015, 2017, 2018, 2023. What was it? And don't tell me you don't know.
I'm giving you
what Uganda.
No, I'm giving you what the salary was when I left the government, and I don't think it changed. 2015, there was an adjustment of salaries because people in central government, especially cabinet level positions, vis-a-vis the government generally, were hurting. At a point, cabinet ministers' pay were like tagged to the pay of legislators. That's how it started. But then over time, legislators' pay went humongously. The gap started getting very wide vis-a-vis cabinet. So it was said that at least we got to close the gap, and also vis-a-vis other actors in government. SOEs normally, and I don't want us, we got to take a very strategic view when we come to SOE salaries. Most of them should operate like public corporations, and they should be paid like private sector entities. What
isn't a pay structured by the board, the labor boards?
Yes, what has been happening, and I think we need to correct, is that people are not being paid for performance. And I think that there should be a minimum threshold of pay for people, especially people that run SOEs that resemble private sector entities, and to the extent that they meet certain targets, profitability and other efficiency targets, they should be given bonuses. If you go to the US and other places, people that have that are in these private sector related entities, they make more. So I cannot say why should a managing director make more than a minister. Well, if you are managing a process, maybe through your ingenuity, the government is to get $20 million more because of what you did.
So you deserve bonus.
You get a bonus. I would not fault
So
you.
let me ask
So,
you.
Minister, let me ask you something very important.
Here's my last
I want to talk about the issue
question.
concerning the road, right? Because it's very important.
Sekou, let's go to
The issue, no, let me just ask the question, very important.
let's
Minister,
go to
the-
into the dry season.
Yeah, let's go to the-
Lovely is important because the minister made mention of the minister of public works. It's important, Julius.
Yeah,
I mean,
this is also important.
no,
LEC, we are
Minister,
facing into the
we-
dry season.
The government announced that they gave out 22 million to the
The
Ministry of
back of
Public
Sekou.
Works.
Your mic
No,
is-
if you want to do that, then
No,
fine.
I'm not.
Okay,
I'm
so
only telling you-
they said they gave 22 million to the
If
Ministry
you want
of
to take a
Public
break,
Works,
let me
right?
break them down back.
Okay, well, then bring it
It's very important. We want to know how much
This is the
the ministry-
on ERBC.
Let me address.
Yeah, but we-
No, but we can't get back now. Let me
Minister, like time.
Finalize it and then.
Actually, whatever I would discuss. No problem.
Minister, let me ask a question, right? Okay, thank you.
We're not getting.
You said the Minister of Public Works will be the right person to explain about the roads across the country. But the particular thing here is the government said they gave 22 million to the ministry to carry out the 100-day deliverable across the country. And the other time, the minister said it is not 22 million he has received, instead 8 million. You, as the Minister of Finance, how much the ministry has been able to disburse to the Ministry of Public Works as it relates to the 22 million? You've come from Lofa County. I know you yourself, you are disappointed as the road there. You cannot go to Lofa as the way it is being said by the Ministry of Public Works. How much did you give out to them?
Well, I know that $22 million allocated for this project over a 2-year period. Government does
Not
not,
for
They say
100
100 days deliverable.
over a 2-year period. Over a 2-year period, those contractors that were contracted, the part of it is that they will have to be making interventions over a 2-year period. What has been disbursed to public works, I think the minister is right, is around the figure he said.
How much?
What he said?
No, but you should tell us because you have all of
The
the
8.9 or something like that. And as time goes by, it will be increasing. Maybe as I said here, maybe we're disbursing money, maybe last. So when I say it's increasing, because when they do work, they meet a benchmark or milestone, they get the money. But it's over a 2-year period. Now you're talking about the road to Lofa. You know, Lofa, the Lofa road, at least I was
your
happy.
county.
Yes, in your county. At least I was happy that for a good while, the people used to leave from here and go to your village in Lofa in no time. It cut their transportation costs. And there are challenges that have come up over the past 1 month or so. I was in a conversation with the senator of Maryland, Senator Biney, and it was me, the vice president, the public works minister. And I haven't gone to Maryland of late. The last time I was there, I think Julius might have been with me. Did I?
No.
No, I think one other journalist. Okay. That was 2015 or something like that. Yeah. He says, and he was very grateful to the public works minister, that the road from Zwedru to I think Fishtown or so still very good. He says it's one of the best since for a good while. You know, we have a way of
When did you have a conversation with him? When?
just this week. Just this week.
But do you know the current
this
status
week.
of the road now?
The current status in some places may not be perfect.
Because
may
the
not-
entire
may not-
southeast is
may not
very
be
deplorable.
perfect, but we should not only look at the bad, let's look at the good. I told you that over a 2-year period, this intervention is going to be done. There are other segments of that project that are performing well. There are other contractors that didn't meet some of the expectations. Public Works is taking action. Now, at the start of this intervention, I told you about the road agenda. It's not just going to be dusty road. I was telling you about quota road, that which we are committing to putting money in the budget, that all those projects that have stalled, I'm talking about quota, those projects can be unlocked. And one of the roads we're talking about is Ganta to Zwaju. When I was Minister of Finance before, we started the Fishtown Hopper. You know what happens to Fishtown Hopper? You know what type of road is on that path. We're now trying to make sure that there is a bridge across the Kavala River through ADB's funding.
Yeah.
Do you know what it means to connect to Africans? So those actions are being taken. So in conclusion on that, let me assure you that I don't think we've disbursed more than 9 million as of now to the Public Works Minister or the Public Works Ministry, or not to the Public Works Ministry, in fact, to the contractors. Over a 2-year period, when they meet the milestone, they're going to be
Okay.
And you can
Alright,
get with
that's-
the yellow machines. Can you give us?
Let's move forward. Yeah.
Yeah, we're moving
The
forward.
last time the information minister came here and said the yellow machine, in fact, the president has turned that whole process to the vice president. He's overseeing.
Well, you said it last time.
Let me give her information on that. Let me give her.
No, I'm not asking about myself. I mean,
Let me just quickly
the audience.
clarify that.
Yeah.
The vice president is leading an effort that the Ministry of Finance is a part of. There was a meeting this week. There's a committee, infrastructure committee, includes finance, public works, the vice president chairs, and other government stakeholders. Their folks are coming tomorrow for another meeting, and eventually, I don't want to what I call I don't want to steal the thunder from the vice president. Eventually, an announcement will be made, but it's been addressed.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's take pause. And the journalists who went with you at the time,
That kind of speakers are there.
Joseph Sayo.
Oh yeah, Joseph Sayo.
Yeah. So you can call us on 080514096. Let's hear from this person. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. What's the name? Okay, let's take this caller. Morning. Yeah. Yeah.
Good morning to the Minister of Finance. I mean, this is Mugar, Maurice Moses Mugar, and I'm all from Jakarta. President, we appreciate President for a planting settle. Thanks, able to come management team and on the report to quick up and they are doing a marvelous job, and we are forward to see the benefit of the President's decision. But Mr. Minister, I'm kindly appealing to your honorable office. I mean, I have just stopped to let you know that on the issue of contingency in the national budget, we beg you, the 2025 budget, there's a lot of money for contingency to have people get, especially some of the our budget spending is illegal, is wrong, we is not true.
Okay.
So, let's put a last step to what the right of our ability. Make up our businesses in this country, you go to the RRA and you declare. How with that one measure can RRA put into place to be able to determine those taxes and give the money instead of declaring the businesses to declare because you can get the taxes. So
Thank you. Good morning. Morning. What's the name?
Well, I'm Emmanuel Bill. My name is Theophilus T. Tobediseko.
Yeah, quickly.
Let me say good morning to the Minister Ngafuan, and let me say good morning to the team there. So I think the Minister have excellently elucidated on the fiscal setting of our country. All we can hope for, I believe in the Minister and the leadership and ideas that he brings to the table. And so, well, thank you, journalists, for the tough questions, and the Minister let he answered. I know that's something better is in for the Liberian people.
Thank you. Good morning.
Probably good morning and good morning to your panelists and as well to your guest, the Honorable Minister of Finance. I'm Aloysius P. Flomo Jr. and I phoned in from Lower Maituri, besides Lake Firestone. I'm impressed this morning from the deliberations of the Minister and especially towards the financial drive of the country. And there's one thing he said that I want to dive into briefly, which has to do with the challenges referencing debt contract. From the overall rating of past government and even this government, it is unfortunate that the country debt rate will exceed such a huge amount like it disclosed, and the reality of meeting up with the living standard of the Liberian people and the development of Liberia is zero. But I just want to conclude to appreciate if the minister could provide a clear roadmap on the move of this government in targeting the issue that has to do with debt cancellation instead of continuously going
Okay.
into debt.
Okay. Debt cancellation. Let's hear from this person. JKB. Good morning.
Good morning, Vablo, and good morning to the guys in studio, the journalists, especially the Minister Ngafuan. Good to hear from you, sir. My concern has to do with budget performance. This is one area we don't hear much about. Spending agencies are giving money, but in return, we don't get budget performance report. What is the minister thinking about that?
Okay.
So that under the regime, we can begin to get those kind of reports.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning, Babu, and good morning to the minister in studio. This is the voice of Ngafuan George, and I'm calling from a resident in Babu, Illinois. Mr. Minister, let me say thank you for your discussion.
Hold on, Regina.
What I want to ask is that, whenever we foreigners are listening and listening to your delivery, we think about the trickle-down effect on the communal consumer. And
Go to the specific now.
To be specific, what are those alternatives you are putting in to reduce some of the inflation that are being seen? Let's see, for example, the exchange rate and the high increase of applicants on the Liberia market.
Okay, thank you. Morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Bobby, and good morning to the panelists. Good morning to the minister. My name is Daniel, so I'm joining from ERW Representative.
Yep.
Let me appreciate you people for bringing the minister to the studio so that the Liberian people can listen to him. There's a question that was asked by Julius and the minister, the answer did not clear my doubt. The wage bill was reduced by the civil service agency, and yet the civil servant salary yet is still not being increased. And I want to find out that according to him, there will be an action in the upcoming budget. And I want him to make it clear whether the Liberian people should owe him a voice, whether this action will affect civil salary increase.
Okay, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you, Humphrey. And let me say good morning to all of the panelists in studio. William Crowley, my candidates for the Foundation City. Let me say thank you so much for your deliberation. I have one suggestion. My suggestion is this coming budget year, please, as the finance minister, please allocate something in the budget for the government PRO. The propaganda are getting too much against the government. So please do something to the budget for propaganda.
For the comments say what you propaganda. Morning. Yeah.
My name is Hussein. I'm Hussein Kelvin. I join you from District 2 in Lagos Town. Here's my question to the minister. I keep asking the questions as the minister in issue of trust and credibility in the system and Ministry of Finance. In the past, we were here when checks were issued to different administrative agencies when those checks were bouncing back to commercial debt. Have you experienced anything of sort that the Ministry of Finance has issued a check and it bounced back? So it comes to the issue of credibility and trust. Can you speak to that quickly?
Okay, we'll take the last call. Morning. Good morning.
Good morning, family. This is the boss of William F. Mark, and I'm coming from Carmel, New Jersey, Northwood.
Go ahead.
I would like to say a very big thank you to the minister first for putting countries first. No matter what we do, anywhere we go, any education we acquire, it is good that we come back to serve our country. And to the minister, I would like for you to please make sure to speak with your points. And always remember the arrest agenda, and always listen to your government, His Excellency President Joseph Mabwaka, that this government will succeed and be in the interest of the Liberian people. We are with you, and we'll continue to be with you. So, Khaled.
Thank you. Yeah, Minister, you can just respond to the concerns.
I think Mongai was talking about the need for contingency funding to deal with some intra budget year pressures, and it will deal with some of this debate about off-budget spending. But let me say, even of off-budget spending, one of the things on the list is legislative sitting. The Constitution of the Republic of Liberia provides that each time you call the legislature or the legislators back from recess, they are entitled to, if I'm not mistaken, 1.5 times their normal salary. That's the Constitution. No matter what we do, that's in fact that's a higher law. So when you call the legislature back, which governments have been doing, it's costly, and sometimes it has to be negotiated. And more often than not, that callback was not anticipated. So to deal with that is a typical off budget. It's a typical off budget spending. So we will try to put contingency funding in the budget, the draft budget, but I need to be realistic, even at the level of the executive. We're going to be allocating ceilings. Now you allocate to everyone, and then you say, okay, I'm not allocating this one, I'm keeping it. But the FBS is saying, oh no, we need to expand all that stuff. All that pressure comes. More often than not, that figure reduces. When it goes to the legislature also has a tendency to reduce it. Not necessarily that they have ill intention, but the concept of reserve, when there is scarcity, is difficult to reconcile it to. But we will try. He talked about LRA and audit. They have a system whereby, in fact, the LRA Commissioner General is trying to improve the capacity to do audits so that government revenue can be secured. People will declare, but when they declare, it's LRA's duty to confirm through audits. It's one of the areas that he's asking for resources. We're looking at those favorably to improve their capacity for audits. Someone talked about, I think it was Aloysius Flomo, who was calling from his rented place. Talk about whether we can.
Akwe Josh.
Okay, Akwe Josh. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it was he that talked about whether we can ask for debt cancellation.
Yeah.
Well, our external debt obligation is humongously high. Part of the ways we're dealing with it is to expand the economy so that we increase our capacity to pay back. But for some, we definitely have negotiation on some so that they can be restructured in ways that do not put too much pressure on government, suffocate the government, that we cannot deal with urgent national priorities. What I've assured of all of the partners is that it will not get worse, it can only get better. We are drawing the line, we deal with the legacy problem, but we try that going forward, they're going to see a credible partner, and the signals that we are emitting are making them to be comfortable. So with the comfort, there's going to be more and more ways that we deal with some of these pressures. Someone talk about PRO funding. I mean, those are things, those suggestions, the budget actors and crafters are listening, we are listening. Increasing funding for PRO. What it means is that even LBS, I think is broad.
But if you work, your work will serve as PR for itself. Yeah.
No, the work serves a PR,
So
but doesn't mean that LBS cannot get an extra microphone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't you need money?
In terms of the wage bill, someone was saying he or she wanted to know what we're doing. The concern was that they needed more clarity vis-a-vis Julius' question. And Julius will know that I can give him so much and not further. We are in a process. It is not just the Minister of Finance, and once you're on a process, you have to wait the process to reach its logical conclusion. I'm giving you signals. There are actors. But one of the things I can say from where I sit and the commitment we make is that we are looking at a panoply of strategies with the grand goal of having a positive effect on disposable income.
Somebody talk about rates, the rate,
The
exchange rate.
the exchange rate has been broadly stable for this country, and and we have to be appreciative, because once the exchange rate is not too volatile, it's good for business. And it didn't just start now; it's been for some time. I think over just around the 190 zone for some time. Sometimes it goes up, it comes down. It's around that zone for almost a year or more. So the central bank is taking some actions. In fact, inflation in Liberia is now about 7.7. We expect the actions that we are taking, led by the central bank and or the government generally, will decrease it to about 6.6. I think going forward, if you compare inflation in other countries, you clap for Liberia. We hear what
No other countries are more developed than us. In spite of that,
there are some other countries that have serious challenges like us, and even worse, that have some serious inflation problems. But I'm not saying that we're not going to be acting on inflation. We're in single digits. Many countries are not in single digits when it comes to inflation.
Mr. Minister,
So-
how do you declare your assets?
Definitely, it's been done, and that what else was?
Yeah, I
But
think
you didn't make it. You didn't make it public.
It will be made public.
It will be made public when?
Few
Why
days.
why did you decide to declare Nicodemusly and put it down?
No, it's going to be made public.
But when?
No,
Tim,
few days.
after call,
And you're going to be one of the first to
journalists
talk about it.
and then we'll close up.
So, Honorable,
I thought we're closing up.
the off-budget spending is legal and illegal.
What off-budget spending is provided for in the budget process. And that's one of the things we're trying to work on. They get what we call budget transfer law, budget transfer rule. The last time I was in this process, we crafted a law, and some of the bandways we created, I think those bandways might have been a little bit too wide, and in some areas not realistic. So we are reviewing the budget transfer law, because you have to do transfer. There could be an emergency around that we did not anticipate in the budget year. How do we address it? So the thing about off-budget being criminal is wrong. That perception is wrong, because, in fact, I don't even want to say it, because some of the folks at the ministry, I think I saw a headline that some of them were to go through investigation. And that's one of the reasons why even how they call him, Andy Kwame delayed in the building, because I was sending him to them. They said, well, you want them to jail us again? The journalists are on our back. I said, well, it's a matter of budget literacy. We have to explain this. They didn't take a dime from government's coffers. And that, but we are trying to create a budget transfer law so that off-budget activities are not abused.
Okay.
That's the key.
Not abuse.
Yeah, thank you, Minister. It's been a pleasure having you on the show this morning.
Well, thank you very much, Vafle. I think, and Kevin and others, I know there were some questions that you all wanted to ask, couldn't come up. When I'm around, it's been difficult to find space to breathe since I started. But when we deal with some of the teething challenges, I will have more time, and I can be guest on your individual show.
Okay.
We'll delve into some of those matters.
The FDIC
We are
is
going to
governmental.
the IMF World Bank meeting.
Well, I think you had the liberty to ask.
And that one thing I didn't tell you, I need to inform you all, is that we are currently crafting two major documents. One is the national budget for next year, fiscal 2005.
25.
2025. Use of 2005. We want to be able to do that by the 31st. We are also crafting the National Development Plan, the Arrest Agenda for Inclusive Development, the AAID. Processes were initiated before I started. I have expedited some of those processes. There were county consultations all around. And just, I think about a week or two ago, we had discussions with legislative caucuses of all the 15 counties. We are developing something called the county development agendas for all the 15 counties. And then there's going to be something called the public sector investment program, and then the national development plan itself. Our target date is that we will complete this process and have the new national development plan launched by the end, on or before the end of November of this year. The last development plan of the government of Liberia was the PAPD, which ended last year. So we've been doing interim interventions, but the grand plan is being put together and is going to be launched hopefully before the end of November. I just wanted to give that out.
Okay. Thank you very much. Finance and Development Planning Minister Ngafuan. I thought it's been a healthy discussion. Sekou, you feeling bad that you didn't have enough time?
No, it was good. At least we asked, even though you wanted to stop us.
No, I didn't say that. The next time you have your agenda, I'll come.
The next time we'll have him to come in our studio. So where you will sit and we control.
Thank you for that.